Most people know Keanu Reeves as the quiet guy from Hollywood, the man who played Neo, John Wick, the internet's favorite celebrity. Calm voice, humble smile, mysterious eyes, but almost nobody understands what's really behind that face. Because the truth is, Keanu Reeves did not become peaceful because life was kind to him. He became peaceful because life destroyed him more than once. Imagine losing your best friend when you're still trying to understand success. Imagine holding on to love for the first time, only to watch it disappear in the cruelest way possible. Imagine waking up after tragedy, with cameras still pointed at your face, expecting you to smile like nothing happened. Most people would break. Some people would become bitter. Others would disappear completely. But Keanu Reeves did something different. He kept going, quietly, without screaming at the world, without turning his pain into spectacle. And maybe that's exactly why millions of people feel connected to him without even knowing why. Because beneath the fame, beneath the action movies and the red carpets, there's something deeply human about him. Something wounded, something real. This is not a story about a celebrity who had a hard life. This is a story about a man who lost almost everything that mattered to him and somehow still chose kindness over anger, compassion over bitterness, silence over hate. And the deeper you go into Keanu's life, the more one terrifying question starts to appear. How much pain can one person survive before they completely lose themselves? What you're about to hear is not Hollywood fantasy. It's the emotional timeline of a man who stood face to face with grief again and again, yet somehow found a form of peace that most people spend their entire lives searching for. And the strangest part is this: his tragedies may be the exact reason the world trusts him so much today. There's something unsettling about Keanu Reeves when you really look at him. Not because he seems dangerous, because he seems tired in a way that feels impossible to fake. You can see it in the pauses between his words, in the way he listens more than he talks, in the strange sadness hidden behind his smile during interviews. Almost like part of him is always somewhere else. Most celebrities spend years trying to look perfect in public. Keanu never seemed interested in that game, and maybe that's because pain stripped that need away from him a long time ago. People often call him humble, grounded, different from other Hollywood stars, but very few stop to ask why. Why would one of the most famous actors on earth sit alone on park benches? Why does he avoid luxury the way other celebrities chase it? Why does he carry himself like someone who understands suffering on a personal level? Because he does. Long before the world turned him into a global icon, Keanu had already become familiar with instability, loneliness, and emotional loss. Fame only made those wounds more visible. And the terrifying part is that his deepest tragedies had not even happened yet. What the public saw as calmness was actually survival. What looked like wisdom was pain that had been quietly digested for years. The smile people admired so much was never proof that life had been good to him. It was proof that life had hurt him deeply, and he learned how to keep living anyway. That's what makes Keanu Reeves different from most celebrities. He doesn't look like a man pretending to be human. He looks like a human being trying to survive his own scars in front of the entire world. And the next part of his story explains where that loneliness truly began. Keanu Reeves was born into instability, not success, not privilege, not the glamorous Hollywood life people imagine when they hear his name today. Before the fame, before the movies, before the millions of fans, there was just a boy growing up in an environment where nothing ever felt permanent. His father abandoned the family when Keanu was still very young. Not slowly, not emotionally distant from afar. He was simply gone. And when a child loses a father that early, something dangerous begins to grow inside them. A silent question. Why wasn't I worth staying for? That kind of wound does not disappear with age. It follows people into adulthood, into relationships, into success, into every room they enter. After his father disappeared, Keanu's life became a constant cycle of movement. Different homes, different schools, different people. No real emotional foundation, no lasting sense of safety. By the time he was a teenager, he had already attended multiple schools and struggled academically. Not because he lacked intelligence, but because his mind was fighting battles most people could not see. Instability changes the way a person sees the world. It teaches you not to get too attached, not to trust permanence, not to believe happiness will stay long. And without realizing it, Keanu was already becoming emotionally prepared for loss long before the worst tragedies arrived. What makes his story even more painful is that while other kids were building identities, Keanu was learning survival, trying to adapt, trying to belong somewhere, trying to understand who he even was in the middle of constant change. That's one reason so many people later described him as quiet, reserved, almost emotionally distant. It was not arrogance, it was self-protection. Because when life teaches you early that people leave, your heart learns to stay guarded even when your soul desperately wants connection. And despite all of that instability, something extraordinary was beginning to form inside him. Resilience. Not the loud kind people post online, the silent kind. The kind built in lonely rooms, broken homes, and unanswered questions. But the deeper Keanu moved into adulthood, the more another painful truth started becoming impossible to ignore. He never truly felt like he belonged anywhere. There are people who walk into a room and instantly feel accepted. Keanu Reeves was never one of them. Even after becoming famous, there was always something about him that felt disconnected from the world around him. Not superior, not arrogant, just separate, like someone watching life from the outside instead of fully participating in it. As a teenager, he struggled to fit into traditional systems. School never felt natural to him. Structure felt foreign. Stability felt temporary. While other people were building confidence and social identity, Keanu was still trying to understand where he belonged emotionally. And the truth is, he often didn't belong anywhere. Not fully Canadian, not fully American, not fully accepted by Hollywood, not fully understood even by the people closest to him. That feeling followed him everywhere. It followed him into friendships, into relationships, into fame itself. Even when his career exploded after films like Speed and The Matrix, Keanu still carried the energy of someone who never truly felt at home in the world around him. That's part of what made audiences trust him, without explanation. Because people can sense authenticity. And Keanu never felt manufactured. Hollywood is full of people desperately trying to be seen. Keanu often looked like someone trying not to be noticed at all. While other celebrities built larger-than-life personas, he remained strangely human, quiet in interviews, awkward during praise, uncomfortable with celebrity culture, almost like fame happened to him by accident. But underneath that discomfort was something much deeper, a lifetime of emotional displacement. When someone grows up without strong emotional roots, they often spend adulthood searching for connection, in places that cannot truly heal them. Success cannot fix it. Money cannot fix it. Attention cannot fix it. Because the real hunger is belonging. And Keanu carried that hunger silently for years. The painful irony is that millions of people around the world felt connected to him, while he himself often seemed emotionally alone. That contradiction became one of the defining patterns of his life. Loved by millions, understood by almost no one. And just as he was beginning to build meaningful connections in his adult life, fate placed someone in his path who would change him forever. Someone who understood his loneliness better than anyone else ever had. Some people experience pain as a moment. For Keanu Reeves, pain became an atmosphere, something constantly present in the background of his life, shaping the way he thought, loved, trusted, and existed in the world. After years of instability, emotional absence, and loneliness, suffering stopped feeling temporary to him. It became familiar, predictable, almost expected. And that changes a person. Because when pain appears often enough, you stop asking, why is this happening to me? You start asking, how long until the next loss arrives? That emotional conditioning creates a different kind of human being, one who struggles to relax fully, one who learns to appreciate moments quietly because deep down, they never fully believe those moments will last. You can hear traces of that mentality in the way Keanu speaks even today. There's caution in his optimism, depth in his silence, a strange awareness of impermanence behind almost every answer he gives. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid pain. Keanu slowly learned how to carry it, not dramatically, not publicly, silently. And over time, that suffering started shaping his emotional language more than joy ever did. That's why there's something unusually grounded about him compared to many celebrities. Pain stripped away illusion early in his life. It forced him to see reality differently. Fame did not impress him the way people expected. Luxury did not fulfill him. Attention did not heal him. Because once someone truly understands emotional loss, superficial things lose their power very quickly. But there was another side to this suffering that made Keanu different. Pain did not turn him cruel. It made him softer, more patient, more compassionate toward strangers, more aware that every person around him might be fighting invisible battles. That kind of empathy usually comes from experience, not theory. People who have suffered deeply often recognize pain in others without words, and Keanu carried that sensitivity everywhere he went. The problem was that life was about to introduce him to a connection so meaningful, so rare, that losing it would nearly destroy him emotionally. That person was River Phoenix, and their friendship would become one of the most important relationships of Keanu Reeves's entire life. Before the world knew Keanu Reeves as an icon, there was one person who truly understood him in a way few others ever could: River Phoenix. Their connection was immediate, not because they were celebrities, not because they worked in Hollywood, but because both of them carried the same quiet sadness behind their eyes. They were young, talented, admired by millions, yet emotionally restless in ways most people around them could not understand. When they worked together on My Own Private Idaho, something powerful happened between them. The friendship went beyond professional chemistry. They recognized something familiar in each other: loneliness, sensitivity, a feeling of being emotionally out of place in the world. River was not just another actor in Keanu's life. He became one of the few people who made him feel genuinely seen. And for someone who spent most of his life emotionally guarded, that kind of connection becomes priceless. People often underestimate how deeply friendships can shape a person's emotional survival. Sometimes a friend becomes the one place where the mask disappears, the one person you do not have to explain yourself to. That was River for Keanu. Their bond grew stronger during a period when both of them were trying to navigate fame, pressure, identity, and emotional confusion inside an industry capable of destroying people quietly. And maybe that's why their friendship felt so important. It was real, not transactional, not built on status, not controlled by Hollywood, just two human beings trying to survive the chaos around them. But life has a terrifying pattern in Keanu Reeves's story. Every time he begins to emotionally connect with someone deeply, tragedy moves closer. And on one devastating night in 1993, everything changed forever. River Phoenix collapsed outside a nightclub in Los Angeles while Keanu was away filming. He was only 23 years old. The news hit like an emotional explosion, not just because River died young, but because Keanu lost one of the very few people who truly understood him beneath the surface. And after that loss, something inside him became quieter. He spoke less, trusted less, opened up less. Because grief has a brutal way of teaching people that emotional attachment can become unbearable when life suddenly takes someone away. For most people, the death of a close friend becomes one of the darkest moments of their life. For Keanu Reeves, it was only the beginning. There are moments in life that divide a person into two versions: the person they were before the tragedy, and the person forced to exist after it. For Keanu Reeves, the death of River Phoenix became one of those moments. When the news spread across Hollywood, people saw another young star lost too soon. Another headline, another overdose, another tragedy connected to fame. But for Keanu, it was deeply personal. This was not distant grief. This was the collapse of someone he loved like family. Someone who understood him emotionally in ways the world never did. And what made it even more haunting was how sudden it happened. One moment River was alive, the next he was gone forever. No closure, no final goodbye, just silence. That kind of loss leaves permanent damage inside a person because the brain keeps searching for logic where none exists. It keeps replaying memories, conversations, unfinished moments. You start wondering what you could have said differently, what signs you missed, whether one small change could have altered everything. Grief turns memory into torture, and Keanu carried that grief quietly while the world kept moving around him. That's what people often misunderstand about emotional trauma. The cameras disappear, the headlines fade, society moves on quickly, but the person living through the pain remains trapped inside it long after everyone else stops paying attention. After River's death, people close to Keanu noticed a shift in him. He became even more private, even more introspective, almost like part of his emotional openness died alongside his friend. Because once someone experiences sudden loss at that level, trust in life itself begins to fracture. You stop assuming tomorrow is guaranteed. You stop believing happiness is stable. You stop relaxing completely around the people you love, because somewhere deep inside, fear starts whispering that they could disappear too. And the terrifying part is this: that fear would later become reality in ways Keanu could never have imagined. But before those future tragedies arrived, something else was happening beneath the surface. Keanu Reeves was becoming emotionally numb, not because he lacked feelings, because he had too many. And sometimes the human mind shuts down emotionally simply to survive what the heart cannot process. The world saw a rising Hollywood star entering the peak of his career. What they did not see was a man slowly learning how to function while carrying grief that never truly left him. By the late 1990s, Keanu Reeves had everything most people spend their entire lives chasing: money, global fame, blockbuster success, recognition in every corner of the world. The Matrix transformed him into something larger than human. Suddenly, he was no longer just an actor. He became a symbol, a cultural phenomenon, one of the most recognizable faces on the planet. From the outside, his life looked perfect, but fame has a dangerous illusion attached to it. People assume success heals pain. It doesn't. In many cases, it magnifies it. Because once you achieve everything society tells you should make you happy, there are only two possibilities left. Either you feel fulfilled, or you realize the emptiness inside you was never connected to money in the first place. And Keanu was beginning to understand that truth very deeply. While millions admired him, his private life remained painfully fragile. Interviews from that period reveal a man who often sounded detached from his own success, almost uncomfortable being treated like a superstar. He did not behave like someone intoxicated by fame. He behaved like someone emotionally disconnected from it. That's why he never fully embraced the extravagant Hollywood lifestyle. No obsession with status, no desperate need to dominate headlines, no constant search for attention. Because inside him, there was still an unresolved sadness that fame could not touch. And sometimes, success becomes emotionally isolating in its own way. The more famous you become, the harder it is to know who genuinely cares about you and who only cares about your image. Relationships become complicated, trust becomes fragile, authenticity becomes rare. For someone already struggling with emotional loneliness, fame only intensified the distance. And yet in the middle of all that success, something unexpected happened. Keanu met someone who brought light back into his life: Jennifer Syme. For the first time in years, people close to him noticed a different energy around him. Softer, more hopeful, more emotionally open. It was not just romance, it was connection. The kind of connection capable of making a wounded person believe happiness might still be possible. And for a brief moment, Keanu Reeves allowed himself to dream about a future that did not revolve around grief. But life was preparing to test him in ways no human being should ever have to endure. Because the next tragedy would not take a friend, it would take his child. There are certain kinds of pain that permanently change the structure of a person's soul. Losing a child is one of them. When Keanu Reeves and Jennifer Syme discovered they were expecting a baby, something inside him began to awaken again. After years of grief, loneliness, and emotional distance, life suddenly felt different. Hope entered the room. Not the loud kind. The quiet kind that makes people imagine the future again. Friends close to Keanu said he was excited in a way they had rarely seen before. More present, more emotionally invested in life. He was preparing himself not just to become a father, but to finally build the emotional stability he had never truly experienced growing up. For someone who spent most of his life feeling disconnected, the idea of family meant everything. And then, without warning, that dream collapsed. Their daughter Ava Archer Syme Reeves was stillborn in 1999. Just like that, the future disappeared. No amount of fame can protect a human being from that kind of silence. The silence of an empty nursery. The silence after plans suddenly lose meaning. The silence between two grieving people trying to survive something words cannot fix. People often talk about grief as sadness. But grief is more than sadness. It's disorientation. It's waking up in a reality your mind refuses to accept. It's carrying love with nowhere to place it. For Keanu, the loss was devastating. Not publicly dramatic, not chaotic. Quiet devastation. The kind that slowly empties a person from the inside while they continue functioning on the outside. And perhaps the most painful part was this. He never got the chance to meet his daughter, never heard her cry, never held her hand, never experienced the ordinary moments most parents take for granted. All he was left with was absence, an entire future erased before it even began. The tragedy deeply affected his relationship with Jennifer. They loved each other, but grief has a terrifying ability to isolate people, even when they suffer together. Sometimes two broken hearts cannot heal side by side, because each person becomes trapped inside their own pain. And underneath all of it, another fear was quietly growing inside Keanu Reeves, a fear that everyone he truly loved would eventually be taken away from him. What he did not know was that life was about to prove that fear right once again, and the next loss would push him closer to emotional collapse than ever before. After the loss of their daughter, Keanu Reeves and Jennifer Syme tried to hold themselves together. But grief changes relationships in ways people rarely talk about. Sometimes, tragedy does not destroy love, it exhausts it. Every conversation becomes heavier, every silence becomes louder. Two people can sit beside each other and still feel completely alone inside their own suffering. Eventually, Keanu and Jennifer separated. Not because they stopped caring about each other, because the pain surrounding them had become too overwhelming to escape. And yet, despite everything, there were signs they still loved one another deeply. Friends close to them believed reconciliation was possible. There were moments when it seemed like maybe life was slowly giving them another chance. Then fate struck again. In 2001, Jennifer Syme died in a car accident in Los Angeles. She was only 28 years old. When Keanu received the news, it shattered whatever emotional stability he had left. Think about the psychological weight of that moment. First, he loses the child they created together. Then, he loses the woman herself. Not years later, not after healing, almost immediately after surviving the first tragedy. It was not just grief anymore. It was emotional devastation layered on top of unresolved trauma. This is the kind of suffering that changes the nervous system permanently. A person stops experiencing life normally after enough loss. The world becomes unpredictable. Love becomes terrifying. Attachment starts feeling dangerous because every emotional investment carries the fear of another goodbye. And somehow Keanu still remained quiet through all of it. No public breakdowns, no self-destruction in front of cameras, no angry interviews blaming the world, just silence. But silence does not mean absence of pain. Sometimes silence is pain at its deepest level. People who knew Keanu during that period described a man carrying enormous emotional weight internally, a person functioning externally while privately drowning in grief. And perhaps the most heartbreaking part of his story is this. He kept losing people right when he allowed himself to love them fully. That pattern would leave scars impossible to erase, because eventually the human heart begins associating connection with suffering. You stop asking, what if this works out? You start asking, how long until I lose this too? For many people, that level of pain creates bitterness. For others, it creates emotional numbness. For Keanu Reeves, it created something even more complicated. A man who still wanted human connection while simultaneously fearing the cost of it. And over time, that conflict pushed him further away from the world emotionally. After losing River Phoenix, his daughter, and Jennifer Syme, something inside Keanu Reeves began shutting down emotionally. Not all at once, slowly, quietly, like lights turning off one room at a time inside a house no one else could see. From the outside, his career continued. Movies were released, interviews happened. Public appearances came and went. The machine of Hollywood kept moving exactly as it always does, but internally, Keanu was retreating from the world. People often misunderstand emotional withdrawal. They think it means someone no longer cares. Sometimes it means they care too much. After enough trauma, the mind begins protecting itself from future devastation. You stop opening up completely. You stop depending emotionally on people. You learn how to exist without expecting permanence from anyone or anything. That became Keanu's survival mechanism. Distance, not coldness, protection. You could see it in the way he carried himself during those years, long periods out of the spotlight, solitary moments captured by photographers, quiet dinners alone, motorcycle rides through empty roads, hotel rooms, airports, silence. There was a haunting loneliness surrounding him, and people around the world could feel it without understanding why. Because grief leaves fingerprints on human behavior, even when someone says nothing. Keanu never turned his suffering into a public performance. He never tried to monetize tragedy or transform himself into a symbol of victimhood. Instead, he absorbed the pain privately. And in many ways, that made the loneliness even deeper. The world admired him, but very few people truly knew what emotional state he was living in behind closed doors. What makes this period of his life so psychologically intense is that he was not simply mourning people. He was mourning versions of himself. The hopeful man who imagined becoming a father, the partner who imagined building a future with Jennifer, the friend who once believed meaningful connections could survive. One by one, those identities collapsed. And when enough pieces of a person disappear, they begin asking dangerous questions internally. Who am I now? What is left of me after all this loss? For many people, this is the stage where bitterness enters, where anger hardens the heart, where pain transforms into cynicism. But something unexpected happened to Keanu Reeves during his emotional isolation. Instead of becoming cruel, he became gentler. And that quiet transformation would eventually become one of the main reasons millions of strangers around the world felt emotionally connected to him without even realizing why. There's a reason people react differently to Keanu Reeves. You see it everywhere, in interviews, in random encounters with fans, in stories shared by strangers online. People talk about him less like a celebrity and more like someone they somehow know personally. And the strange part is this: most of them have never actually met him. So why does the world trust Keanu Reeves almost instinctively? Because human beings can recognize emotional truth even without words. Most public figures spend years constructing perfect images, every smile calculated, every statement rehearsed, every appearance carefully designed to control perception. Keanu feels different, not polished, not artificial, human, and that authenticity was not created by publicists or branding experts. It was carved into him by suffering. Pain has a way of removing performance from people. After enough loss, many stop wasting energy pretending to be more important than they are. Ego becomes exhausting. Vanity becomes meaningless. That's why Keanu carries himself with a humility that feels almost shocking in Hollywood. Not because he is trying to appear humble, because tragedy changed what matters to him. When someone has stood face to face with grief repeatedly, attention stops feeling powerful. Status stops feeling impressive. The small moments become more valuable than image. That emotional depth is visible in him constantly. People notice the way he listens carefully when others speak, the way he avoids making conversations about himself, the way sadness and kindness seem to exist together in his personality at the same time. And without realizing it, audiences connect those traits to safety, because deeply wounded people who remain compassionate often feel trustworthy to others. There's also another reason the public feels attached to Keanu. He never acts superior. Despite being one of the most famous actors alive, he moves through the world with the energy of someone who understands suffering is universal. That creates emotional closeness between him and ordinary people. He does not feel untouchable. He feels reachable, like someone who has survived enough pain to understand yours too. And maybe that's why so many stories about his kindness continue spreading year after year. Stories of generosity, respect, quiet compassion towards strangers, not staged moments, human moments. The kind no camera was supposed to capture. But what most people still did not understand was this. Those acts of kindness were not random personality traits. They were directly connected to the tragedies that shaped him. Because once someone truly understands pain, they begin treating others differently. And Keanu Reeves understood pain more deeply than almost anyone around him realized. Most celebrities are generous when cameras are watching. Keanu Reeves became known for kindness when nobody was supposed to notice. That's the difference. Over the years, countless stories began surfacing from ordinary people. A crew member struggling financially who quietly received help. A stranger treated with dignity when nobody else was paying attention. Long conversations with fans that felt sincere instead of rushed. None of it looked performative, and that's why people believed it. One story described Keanu sitting alone late at night, casually sharing time with homeless individuals without trying to escape the interaction. Another revealed how he gave away large portions of his earnings from major films to support costume designers and special effects teams because he believed they deserved recognition too. Most people with enormous fame protect status. Keanu seemed almost detached from it. But the deeper reason behind his generosity is what makes his story emotionally powerful. People who survive deep suffering often develop one of two instincts. They either close themselves emotionally from humanity, or they become unusually sensitive to the suffering of others. Keanu became the second type, because pain changed the way he saw people. When someone has experienced devastating grief personally, they stop assuming everyone around them is okay simply because they appear functional. They understand hidden suffering exists everywhere. And once you truly understand that, kindness stops becoming an image. It becomes instinct. That's why his compassion feels different from celebrity charity campaigns or public relations gestures. His kindness often appears in ordinary moments where there is nothing to gain socially. No headlines, no awards, no applause, just humanity. And ironically, those small moments became more powerful than any blockbuster role he ever played, because audiences today are starving for authenticity. People are exhausted by performance, ego, and artificial perfection. When they see someone carrying fame without arrogance, success without cruelty, pain without bitterness, it creates emotional impact. Keanu Reeves became proof that suffering does not automatically destroy goodness inside a person. But there was still one battle happening silently beneath all of this, his relationship with solitude. Because despite the kindness, despite the admiration from millions, Keanu still spent enormous portions of his life alone. And eventually he had to confront a question that changes every person who survives repeated tragedy. Can loneliness become peace? Or does it slowly consume you from the inside? Most people are terrified of being alone, not silence for a few minutes. Real loneliness. The kind that forces you to sit face to face with your own thoughts when there is nobody left to distract you from them. Keanu Reeves spent years living inside that silence. After so many losses, solitude stopped being temporary in his life. It became routine. Airports alone, hotel rooms alone, long motorcycle rides with nobody beside him, quiet apartments, late nights without noise. And at first, that isolation carried pain, because loneliness after grief feels different from ordinary loneliness. It is not just the absence of people. It is the absence of specific people your heart still remembers every day. But something unexpected slowly happened during those years alone. Keanu stopped fighting the silence. He began learning from it. That transformation is rare. Many people try to escape emotional emptiness through addiction, attention, relationships, noise, or constant stimulation. They fear stillness because stillness exposes unresolved pain. Keanu moved in the opposite direction. Instead of numbing himself publicly, he allowed solitude to reshape him internally. You can hear traces of that evolution in the way he speaks about life now. There's less urgency in him, less desperation to control outcomes, less attachment to ego, status, and external validation. Pain forced him to confront something most people avoid their entire lives: impermanence, the understanding that everything changes, everything ends. Every person, every moment, every version of ourselves eventually disappears. That realization destroys some people emotionally, but for others it creates wisdom. Keanu slowly became someone who appreciated moments without demanding ownership over them, someone capable of loving deeply while understanding nothing lasts forever. And strangely, that acceptance brought him closer to peace. Not happiness in the simplistic Hollywood sense, not constant joy, something deeper, calm, the kind that emerges when a person stops arguing with reality itself. That's one reason his presence feels so different today. There's sadness in him, yes, but there's also acceptance, almost like someone who survived emotional storms so violent that ordinary chaos no longer controls him the same way. And perhaps that is the hidden lesson inside his story. Sometimes suffering does not destroy a person. Sometimes it removes everything unnecessary until only truth remains. But the most important transformation of all was still waiting beneath the surface, because eventually Keanu Reeves developed a philosophy about pain that completely changed the way he carried his tragedies. And that philosophy may be the real reason he never became bitter. After enough suffering, every human being reaches a crossroads. One path leads toward anger, the other leads toward understanding. Keanu Reeves had every reason to become bitter. Life had taken his closest friend, his child, the woman he loved, years of emotional stability, the future he once imagined for himself. Many people would have hardened after that. They would have turned cynical, distrustful, emotionally cold toward the world. But Keanu chose something different, not because he was untouched by pain, because he understood pain too deeply to spread it further. Over the years, fragments of his worldview began appearing through interviews and quiet conversations. He rarely speaks like someone obsessed with success or status. Instead, he speaks like someone who understands how fragile life actually is. That changes everything. When a person fully understands impermanence, they stop wasting energy on superficial battles. Ego loses importance, pride becomes smaller. Petty conflicts begin feeling meaningless compared to the reality of loss. Keanu started living with a kind of emotional awareness most people only develop after tragedy. He became present, more grateful for ordinary moments, more compassionate toward strangers, more careful with the people around him, not because life became easier, because he realized how quickly everything can disappear. There's also another powerful shift that happened inside him. He stopped viewing suffering as proof that life was unfair specifically to him. That mindset matters enormously. Some people personalize pain so deeply that they become trapped inside victimhood forever. Every tragedy becomes evidence the world is against them. Keanu seemed to arrive at a different understanding. Suffering is part of being human. No amount of fame, money, beauty, or success exempts anyone from loss. And once someone truly accepts that reality, a strange form of peace becomes possible. Not peace because life stops hurting. Peace because resistance to pain begins fading. That does not mean sadness disappears. It means suffering no longer completely controls the soul. And maybe that's the greatest transformation Keanu Reeves ever experienced. He stopped asking life to guarantee happiness. He simply learned how to remain human through heartbreak. That's why his story resonates so deeply with millions of people around the world, not because he is famous, because he represents something rare, a wounded person who never lost the ability to be gentle. And that leads to the final truth hidden beneath his entire journey. The real reason Keanu Reeves finally found peace. Most people think peace comes after the pain ends. Keanu Reeves learned something far more difficult. Pain never fully leaves. You simply become someone capable of carrying it differently. That is the real ending of his story. Not a miracle, not a perfect recovery, not a Hollywood ending where every wound suddenly disappears. Real peace is much quieter than that. And Keanu's life proves it. If you look closely at him today, you can still see the sadness. It never vanished completely. The losses are still there. The memories are still there. The grief still exists beneath the surface, but it no longer owns him. That's the difference. Somewhere along the way, Keanu stopped trying to escape suffering and started learning how to live beside it without losing himself. And maybe that's why people around the world feel something powerful when they look at him. They are not seeing perfection. They are seeing survival. A man who went through enough tragedy to become cruel, bitter, or emotionally destroyed, yet somehow remained kind. That kind of strength is rare, because true strength is not loud. It does not scream. It does not need attention. Sometimes true strength looks like a quiet man continuing to treat people with compassion after life has broken his heart repeatedly. That is what makes Keanu Reeves unforgettable. Not the movies, not the fame, not the money, the humanity, the ability to suffer deeply without becoming darkness himself. And maybe that is the lesson hidden inside his entire journey. Every person watching this video is carrying something invisible: regret, loss, loneliness, grief, fear, pain nobody else fully understands. Keanu's story reminds us that suffering does not automatically destroy the human spirit. Sometimes it reveals it. Sometimes the people who carry the deepest scars become the ones most capable of empathy, patience, and love, because they understand how fragile life truly is. And perhaps peace is not about healing every wound. Perhaps peace is learning that even with broken pieces inside you, life can still contain meaning, connection, beauty, and moments worth staying alive for. Keanu Reeves never became peaceful because tragedy avoided him. He became peaceful because tragedy touched him repeatedly, and he still chose to remain human afterward. That may be the rarest kind of strength a person can ever possess.